Hi, in this video I just want to do a quick run through of Mass Effect 1 using my ENB and SweetFX as well as my DSR to run the game in 1440p. Now I'll start here by just showing the options that I'm using as far as my graphics settings. Now as I said, I'm running it with the DSR, which is NVIDIA, and I'm running it at 2560 by 1440. This allows me to record the game also in 1440p in order to show you the graphics and resolution in the game. Now if you're using ATI, then you would be using VSR. Just check on the mod notes and you'll find the links and setup for either if you're unfamiliar with setting up either of them. Now as far as my gamma, I am using 34 gamma just to kind of bring up those blacks in the background. With the ENB in SweetFX or the reshade in SweetFX, it's the clear view color match setting. So what it does is it kind of takes away that gray filmy layer and brings out all the base colors in detail so that you really get a nice look to the game. Now as far as motion blur or film grain, you can use those if you'd like. I normally just play with them off. Vertical sync, you can also run that off. Just if you encounter any screen tears, just turn the vertical sync back on. Now one thing just to note, if you do use the alternate preset file for the ENB and SweetFX, you want to adjust the gamma up to about 54 for that. Now I'm just going to get in the game here. I'm going to actually start a new game and just kind of play the first part here so I don't give too much away to the game in case you happen to be a new player and I don't really want to spoil too much of it. So I'll kind of go through the first little bit here right up to the planetfall mission start. I'm just going to select the default character here and put it on the easiest settings. I'm not really going to be doing a lot of playing, so it doesn't really matter if I have it on hard or easy, because it's just mainly going through the dialogue and becoming familiar with the story and what you're going to have to do later in the game. So if you notice, you're not getting that bleed over effect that the game normally has, that really kind of bright bloom, and that's because of the I&I changes that are made in the mod. Now if you haven't made those changes, you may want to do that. That will take away all the bleed effects and the colors kind of bleeding into one another, and that actually changes the light refraction off of different surfaces as it changes the color of the actual light source. So you'll notice that when you do actually make those I&I changes, that you'll get a better light separation and you'll get the proper colors reflecting off of characters and stuff when they're standing by those light sources. Now as you can see, you're getting those true blacks and the true darks, so all the edging and everything, the detail is coming out really nice, and everything just looks a lot more up to date. It kind of brings the whole game resolution, everything up to date, so it makes it look a lot nicer as far as the game goes. Now I am just playing with the vanilla graphics. I'm not using the medium in this case, although the Candyland feature video for this, they combine this with the medium mod in their slideshow and clips. I'm not doing that in this case. I'm just showing you what your game will look like on a vanilla game with the added I&I changes in the ENB and SweetFX, or the reshade in SweetFX, which has the same settings. The only difference between the two is actually the versions. If you were to replace the setting file or the preset file with the ENB and SweetFX, you would use a setting file of 1.5 and down. With the reshade SweetFX, you would use a 2.0 and down. If you try to use a version 3 with the reshade and SweetFX, those are actually different. Reshade by itself uses different setups and configurations, as opposed to the reshade in SweetFX, which was a combination of the two, and it was the initial beta release of the reshade really at that time, before reshade itself became an actual program by itself with its own site and forum and such. If you aren't familiar with the actual sites, just use the links through my mod, and that will actually take you to those sites so you can get other preset files and such if you wanted to change the effects. Now I'm just gonna kind of go through without doing a lot of chatter here in the first area. Now if you are a new player, you do want to explore all the different dialogue, because you will get Paragon or Renegade points, as well as experience for talking to different characters. The Renegade and the Paragon points are basically your karma points, whether you're a good or a bad person, in that manner. Now usually I find the Paragon points are usually the better one to go into, as you'll actually find going through the game that the characters and such like you better, and it allows you access to different things. Now I'll just quickly open the codex here, and as you can see, all the colors, everything is coming through quite nice. It's all quite clear. I'm not going to read anything here though. Now, as far as the people that you can talk to here, I'm not actually going to chat with anybody here, but I would suggest that you do, in order to get those points, as I was saying, in the experience. I'm just going to kind of go down here and talk to Nalus. Now, Nalus is a Spectre, basically secret police for the galaxy. And in this conversation, he basically wants to sponsor you to become the first human Spectre. And by doing so, it will allow your character to develop more and give you access to more things as a Spectre. Now, I'm not going to explain anything past that. Again, spoilers. So I'll just kind of go through here, have this little conversation with Nalus and the captain, find out what's going on. Again, I'm going to be vague, but once you actually get into game, you'll know what I'm talking about. And we're just going to be picking up a relic here from a race called the Protheans, and you'll find out more about those once you're in game also. But as you can see, everything around us looks quite nice. The character facial detail is quite nice. You can see the pores and the different colorations on the skin, and the texturing on the alien's face, the reflections, all the colors, everything looks really nice on each character. I'm actually really impressed for the way that this game looks for being an older game. Now again, if you do want to use the medium graphics, that will further improve the graphics on the characters, making the game look even more up to date. And if you look through the Candyland video feature that's linked on my YouTube page, you can actually see the way that the characters will look with the added medium detail in that one. But again, in those clips, they haven't added the I&I changes, so you can actually see the bleed over effect that you get in the vanilla game without making those changes and using the mod. And I'll kind of show it here too when I actually get through to Planetfall. But what I'll do is I'll just kind of stop once I actually get to the mission in the Planetfall, in order to let you kind of play the game, because if you are a new player, I don't want to give out too much information on what you want to expect, but I do want to kind of show everything up to that point so that you can see how the game looks with the higher resolutions and the ENB and the SweetFX. Now I'll turn off the effects in a moment. I'll just kind of let it play through here as we're watching the video on the present attack that's taking place on Eden, where the artifact is that we're going to get. Now this is a really important clip in the game. This really leads into the main story and the main enemy that you're facing in the future. I won't go past that, but basically you want to pay attention to this opening sequence because this lays the basis for the whole storyline and what's to come. And as far as a story, this game has a really excellent storyline. The only thing I didn't really care for was the way that they ended the third game. But again, using mods, I got the alternate ending mod for that one, and I kind of like that ending a lot better. But we'll get back to the Mass Effect 1 here, and as you can see, everything's nice and sharp. We're not experiencing that really heavy bloom effect, the radiance that you get from having the I&I line unaltered. The game itself, what I really like is that it has kind of a continued continuity between the look of the characters in the first 3 games. And that's something that I really like. When they remake games, they seem to make the characters look all different and such, where I find that this one, it doesn't really need to be remade. It just needs these little additions to help it look more up to date. So I'll just head down to the planet here and quickly have a look around to show you the area, and then I'll just end the video off because I don't really want to spoil the game if you're a new player. So with the I&I changes, as you can see, now you're seeing the light source in the center, which is the sun, and then the actual light separated in the area around it. And then if you look at the characters, you're actually getting a light reflection on the characters that's relative to the color of the actual light source. And I'll just turn it off one last time here. As you can see, everything becomes kind of gray. You've lost a lot of that really fine detail and such underneath that gray layer, and the light source is no longer generating the proper light color when it's reflecting off the characters. So I'll turn it back on. That was the pause break for the ENB version that you use. And now that we've gotten to this point, I'm just going to finish up. So if there are any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I will leave links to the other setup videos in mod in order to set up your game. Now again, if you want to use the medium mod, that is quite a nice mod, but make sure that you have a GPU that will support it. If you're using an Intel graphics, I would suggest just running it on the vanilla graphics like this and just adding the ENB and SweetFX or the reshading SweetFX. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and take care. Thanks a lot for watching.